Our next speaker comes from Croatia. Professor Dalibor Čepulo is an expert on legal history and legal culture, and he is the head of the Department of the History of Croatian Law and State at the University of Zagreb. The title of Professor Čepulo's presentation is Symbols and Nation State, Legal Regulation of Symbols of Power of Croatia from mid of the 19th century to 1990. We are about to see a video recording from Professor Čepulo, as he could not join us personally.
Dear colleagues, I regret that I will not be able to join you in Budapest, but due to some obligations I could not postpone. But this is the way that we communicate in the other way. And also, let's not spare the very precious time that we have for the 20 minutes presentation. My story will be about the symbols and the nation state. That is how the symbols of the land in the creation process of the Croatian nation building became the symbols of the nation state. I will first pinpoint briefly into the medieval period, when the Croatian kingdom, called officially Regnum Croatia and Dalmatia, which was followed also by in the period of the Arpad kings that ruled Croatian kingdom as Dalmatia and Croatia, ruled through this with this region as single area of rule. Yet this single area of the king's rule consisted of three local governments: Dalmatian, Croatian, and Slavonian. And on this basis, in the period of Angevin kings, the three lands, Regnum Croatia, Regnum Dalmatia, and Regnum Slavonia, were formed, which marked the particularization of formerly a single area of rule. This was accompanied by three respective coat of arms of the three lands, but the historical pendulum will turn the other side after the Ottoman conquest and scratching of these territory into much smaller one. That was because of this reason administratively integrated by the single diet and the single bond. Because of that, this administrative integration effected with official title Kingdoms of Dalmatia, Croatia, and Slovenia, much rarely kingdom in singular, and Natio Croatica as its aristocratic political nation. The coat of arms were not proclaimed as official symbol of this common territory, but they started to be set in line. And in the 17th century, they merged into, unofficially, they merged into the common coat of arms of the three lands as the single coat of arms. This became the basis, this aristocratic symbol became the basis of the nation building, because the Illyrian party, which was Democratic Party, had as its own symbol, democratic symbol, and symbol of first unity of South Slavic, and then unity of these three lands, the Illyrian symbol, that is young moon and the star. This democratic symbol were first merged with these aristocratic symbols into the single unity, as can be seen in the installation flag and coat of arms of the Ban Jelačić. And it was accepted later on in the more merged form, after that without Illyrian symbol, as the official via facti official coat of arms of the kingdoms of Dalmatia, Croatia, and Slavonia, unofficial called the Triune Kingdom or Croatia. At the same time, the national tricolor was invented as red, white, and blue as the colors that were derived from the historical coat of arms, Croatian coat of arms. The official regulation of these symbols were very undeveloped. In fact, the first attempt in 1848 failed, and the later time after that were not very friendly. March Constitution, absolutism, and so on was not very friendly period of regulating such symbols. So it was only Croatian-Hungarian settlement of 1868 that provided for very laconic regulation of this code of Croatian, the code of arms of kingdoms of Dalmatia, Croatia, Slavonia, without a description, because it was obviously meant as something very plausible. Yet it was, one could expect from the home government that it described the opportunity, that used the opportunity to describe these symbols of the land, but it was not the case. It was only 1876 that they noticed that there was a legal lacunas. They tried to standardize and describe these symbols, but in practice, this order was inefficient. The symbols appeared in different forms, with different number of fields, with different order of coat of arms, etc., etc. So it was only Home Government's Decree 1948 that set more standardized and more descriptive decree that set some order into use of this official symbol. This turnover into the 20th century also saw the more developed national movement, which used as its symbols more simple and more, so to say, legitimized the symbols of a single symbol of characteristic Croatian checker cord of arms that gradually became the national symbols. This has not become official symbol or symbol of power, but through the use in the other lands of Austro-Hungarian monarchy, and not just in Croatia, Slavonia, and Bosnia, by the Croatian population of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Dalmatia, and overseas countries, it became a national symbol. Now we will turn back to the symbols. Now I will say a few words about appearing the national anthem. It appeared on the basis of the poem of Croatian homeland and upon the melody composed in 1846 by Josip Runjanin. Interesting enough, a Serbian Orthodox cadet of Serbian Orthodox origin, upon which basis the Croatian national anthem, Our Beautiful Homeland, appeared. That continuously, of course, has been the Croatian anthem since nowadays. It was not accepted as national anthem from the beginning. It was popularized in 1862, and in 1907 there was initiative that it was to be proclaimed official anthem, but it was lost in the initiative was lost into the political events of that year. What is interesting that the anthem was exposed rather soon, 1862, to the textual changes. Namely, the original text mentioned the river Sava and the river Danube that speak to the world about the Croats' love for their homeland. And in 1862, the Drava River was also added to these verses. And the Drava River was the delimitation between Croatia and Hungary. A part of that, the original verses about Croat loves of his homeland were replaced by the Croat loves of his people. So these changes introduced the delimitation of the homeland and filling up the national marcation of this homeland. Croat not just loved his homeland, but he loved his people. Now we will skip to the Croatian regulations of symbols in the Yugoslav kingdom. Yugoslav kingdom was founded as Yugoslav state. It was founded as kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, as the kingdom of three named Serbian, Croatian, Slovene nation, with single nation, with a common language. It was this three-parted single nation. It was always a little bit of paradoxical. What was certain was that the country was based on the Serbian dominance, the Serbian traditions and model of government that could be seen in the outlook of the coat of arms of the new state, which almost completely followed the outlook of the Kingdom of Serbia. Yet the big difference was that the core of this double Serbian double eagle was filled with the symbol of white cross that symbolized the Serbs, and checkered coat of arms that we also already seen as symbols of Croats and symbol of Slovenes. So the new symbols were not marking the lands, but the ethnicities or whatever that consisted this new state. This was also the first time that this characteristic Croatian checkered coat of arms was proclaimed as official coat of arms. The anthem of the new state was not defined, but it was consisted of the three-parted solemn song: Serbian anthem, Croatian Our Beautiful Homeland, and Slovenian solemn song. It was interesting that, so this was quite an important thing, because for the first time, Croatian checkered coat of arms that was already used as the Croatian national symbol was accepted as the national, tribal symbol of the land, officially standardized with 25 fields, with the initial red field, etc., etc. So the former coat of arms of the Triune Kingdom, that was the coat of arms of the land and nation, was replaced officially by the checkered coat of arms as single, exclusive, all Croatian national symbol that also looked up to symbolize the respective territory in certain interpretation. Kingdom of Yugoslavia was proclaimed in 1929, was based on a different basis, that is officially integralist unitary ideology and the Yugoslav nation. And the Constitution 1933 omitted ethnic adjectives, former ethnic adjectives of individual coat of arms, but in theory, it did not ban their use. The problems between Croats and Serbs bore Croatian problem that was resolved by Croatian-Serbian agreement between Yugoslav government and Croatian Peasant Party, upon which the autonomous Banat of Croatia, with extensive autonomy, was founded, its own home government. And this Ban's cabinet introduced the Great and Small Seal of the Banat of Croatia. Interesting enough, it did not do much more on this symbolic basis of its power, which one could otherwise quite expect it. I do not know actually the reason. It was completely different with independent state of Croatia, Nazi-fascist modeled and totalitarian state, proclaimed 10th of April 1941, and already 28th of April, the decree was passed that very precisely and very detailed regulated the symbols. The state was very new. It was a notorious puppet state, but one of the first things they do was to define the symbols. The elements of all variety of flags and coat of arms were common. That is, its basis was the state flag and state coat of arms. It consisted of, again, characteristic Croatian checkered coat of arms with eared letter U, which was the symbol of Ustasha movement. It was the party state. And the characteristic wickerwork, medieval wickerwork pattern. The same symbols were present in the Ustasha flag. So what was interesting is that the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, the Banat of Croatia, and the independent state of Croatia were all based upon its essential substance, the checkered Croatian coat of arms with undisputed the the Croatian tricolor flag. The same symbols will be proceeded as the symbols of Croatia in the partisan federation, in the Yugoslav Federation. The partisan resistance movement bore out a multinational federation on the Soviet model based on right to self-determination, including the right to secession of Serbs, Croats, Slovenes, Macedonians, and Montenegrins. 5 nations, 6 republics. So each of the, according to the Soviet model, each of the 5 nations, Serbs, Croats, Slovenes, Macedonians, Montenegrins, had its own national republics, plus Bosnia and Herzegovina as multicultural, multinational republic. Because of that, the Croatian Republic was, just as other republics, was proclaimed as the state, and it had its own constitution. And what is interesting, that the Constitution of the People's Republic of Croatia and the constitutions of Croatia 1963, 1974 had the same outlook of the Croatian Code of Arms. It was very typically checkered coat of arms in the middle, and the Croatian tricolor with Soviet heraldry, red star here and there, etc. But the basis of it was historical coat of arms. The national anthem was in Croatia, in practice, it was also accepted, Our Beautiful Homeland. That in 1972 was proclaimed in the amendment to the Croatian Constitution as Republican anthem. Croatia was the only republic in Yugoslavia that proclaimed its own national anthem. The practice in Croatia was not favorable to a part of it, in spite that it was not banned, it was definitely not favorable to waving of national symbols. So the provocative or improper use of these symbols could result with 19 to 30 days of imprisonment. In 1966, the regime was more tolerant toward this, but this tolerance was completely inconsistent and it depended upon political periods. Whatever comes, the turnover into the Republic of Croatia, based on multi-party elections, bore out the symbols of the new state, based on, of course, the same symbols, the flag and the checkered coat of arms. First, as a provisional symbols, not well defined. Only 6 months later, they were defined in a very detailed law, which very precisely defined these symbols. They were based, and these are the symbols of the contemporary Republic of Croatia. They are based on, again, of course, on the Croatian historical symbols. This time amended with the crown. This crown was very much criticized by herald experts in heraldry and historians, because they said it never appeared, it was simply not part of tradition, but in the practice it was finally accepted. The national anthem was, of course, proclaimed and very detailed, regulated the anthem, Our Beautiful Homeland. This time again with reappearing of the change, of the textual change, that mentioned deep blue sea, contributing to the delimitation, territorial delimitation of the homeland, that, as already proclaimed in 1862, was based on the Croat's love of his people. So these were the symbolic postures of, let's call it, transfer of the symbols of the land into the symbols of the nation. So to conclude, modern Croatian symbols of power were based on the symbols of medieval regna, including the flag, that were gradually becoming official symbols of the land, with typically Czech-Croatian coat of arms as first all Croatian symbols and then symbol of nation state in making. That was accepted in a very different context. This coat of arms was accepted as official symbol of Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, official symbol of the Banate of Croatia, official symbol of the independent state of Croatia, and of the Communist Republic of Croatia. It proved itself, its basis, because there were details that were different, but its raw basis, so to say, proved itself as the neutral symbol of this nation state. And of course, because of that reason, the same was characteristic for the national anthem, that also passed through kind of development. And because of that, they were made state symbols of the Republic of Croatia. That I explained more extensively in my previous paper. And this is the end of my paper, which I hope was just in the course of the time. Hope to see you again. Bye.